Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are right at 8:30, so we are going to go ahead and call the meeting to order here. If you could find your way down to your seats. Welcome to the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Alcoholics Anonymous. My name is Brian and I'm an alcoholic. Just a reminder that this group is all about service. We have a couple of H&I commitments going. We have one we do every week. So it's on Sunday nights up at a treatment center in Quakertown there. We have another one going at Penn Foundation, right? So if you'd be interested in coming out and doing some service work, speak to the sick and suffering, you can see me, see any home group member after the meeting if you're interested in doing that. We have t-shirts and hoodies available if you are interested in one. We sell them at our own cost. With that, I'm going to bring the world's greatest chairperson and our resident Heartbroken Cowboys fan up to the stage. Please help me give a warm welcome to Carole.
Oh man, that hurt. But I didn't love him so much. Hello everybody, my name's Kara. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. Welcome home. This is a 1-hour speaker meeting that meets every Saturday evening at St. Paul's Lutheran Church, 301 North Main Street, Doylestown, PA. Food and fellowship starts at 8 p.m. and speaker at 8:30 p.m. The business meeting for this group meets every Saturday at 7 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. right here. Please come early and join us. The purpose of this group is to provide a consistent message of hope and recovery through God reliance and service to others through the practice and teachings of the 12 steps. We record all speakers so that others may benefit from their message of recovery. If you wish not to be recorded, simply ask. This is an open meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. The group would like to welcome everyone, especially newcomers. Is there anyone new or from out of town that would like to introduce themselves with their first name? The Conscious Contact Speaker Group encourages sponsorship. Would anyone with the working knowledge of the 12 steps and is willing to sponsor, please raise your hands. Thank you. Are there any announcements for the good of AA? Gary?
Hey, I'm Gary, I'm an alcoholic.
Hey, Gary.
This Monday night 6 p.m. meeting, the Stay Alive Literature and Step Group meeting. All are welcome right outside in the lobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Our sister group is a Big Book study meeting that meets every Thursday at 7:30 p.m. just up the street at Salem UCC Church, 186 East Court Street, Doylestown. Coffee is on at 6:15. We have meeting lists and big books on easy terms. Please see me or any home group member after the meeting. If you cannot afford a big book, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group will give you one at no charge. Anyone willing to make donations for the purpose of the big books to help those who cannot afford them can put donations in the jar on the table marked Big Books and CD Donations. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, the Conscious Contact Speaker Group of Doylestown, PA, and our Facebook group. Subscribe and share. You can find our speakers there. Join our Facebook page to keep informed, and you can share upcoming events and meetings. Now I would like to introduce a good friend of the Conscious Contact. Let's give Thomas a warm welcome. He's going to come up and read Just for Today, Prayer of Recovery. Woo!
Good evening, everyone. I'm Thomas. I'm an alcoholic. Welcome home. This is the Just for Today Prayer of Recovery. Just for today, I will be agreeable. I will look as well as I can, dress becomingly, talk low, act courteously, criticize not one bit, not find fault with anything, and not try to improve or regulate anybody except myself. And with that, would you please help me to welcome up Jen for the preamble?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jennifer, alcoholic, and I'd like to read the preamble to you. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organization, or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor imposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help others, alcoholics, to achieve sobrieties. Thank you. I would like to welcome Michelle to read the 12 steps.
Hi everybody, welcome home. I'd like to read the 12 steps of AA. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Oh, and I'm Michelle, by the way, and I'm an alcoholic. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. Step 4, made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we're entirely ready to have God remove all these defects of character. Step 7, humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, continued to take personal inventory and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And with that, I'd like to invite our Southern Belle back up, Carole.
Our Southern tradition states every AA group ought to be fully self-supporting, declining outside contributions. At this time, I would like to pass the baskets. We have no dues or fees, but we have expenses. This group provides many services. Your donations cover food, rent, big book CDs, events, and workshops, etc. There is absolutely no smoking on church property. Please take a moment to silence all cell phones and limit movement during the meeting to avoid distractions. Now, I'd like to introduce the speaker. As a good friend of the Conscious Contact Speaker Group, let's give Carole, she came all the way from Rockaway, New Jersey, a warm welcome. Woo!
Hi, my name is Carole, I'm an alcoholic. Thank you for the warm welcome from everybody. My sobriety date is July 10th, 1989. My home group is the Serenity Porch in Rockaway, New Jersey. I guess I have to make that clear. We have a beginner's meeting on Monday. We have a women's meeting and a men's meeting on Tuesday, a big book meeting on Thursday, and a speaker meeting Saturday nights, which ironically, I was supposed to be leading tonight. I have a sponsor who knows that she's my sponsor. I sponsor 4 women, and their sobriety ranges from 20 years to 3 years. I have a commitment at my home group. I have a commitment at the district level. I'm the treatment chair for District 9. And I'm not saying that to, brag about what I'm doing. I'm doing it as a subtle reminder to myself of what sponsorship and service has done for me in helping me maintain long-term sobriety. I don't know what I'm doing here. Like I do, but like I know that somebody gave my name to somebody else, and next thing you know, I get an email. It's like, hey, will you come to Doylestown to speak? And I was taught you don't say no in AA unless you have a really good reason. And so I said yes, and here I am. And I know Ron said to, just make sure you dress up and don't swear. And I swear, I said, look, I'm old school. I was always taught that when you go out to speak that you're a representative of Alcoholics Anonymous and sobriety. And so I knew that. But I swear one of these days, I feel like showing up in an evening gown. Just, you know what I mean? Just for fun. Just to see how that goes over. But I also know that, look, my job here is really simple. I just have to tell you what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. And man, I've got a good life. I mean, I would have settled for a lot less. If you think back about what you thought being sober was going to be like when you were just on this side of it, I didn't have high expectations. I kind of thought it was going to be boring and dull, and I was just going to slog through my sober life. And I'm just so pleased that hasn't been how it's turned out. But again, how'd I get here? I was not raised in an alcoholic family, but I have the genetic trait. And this is because, well, my mom's kind of a nut job. We'll just put it there. She's been married 4 times. Like, what's the definition of insanity again? Like, I don't know, but, it's really neither here nor there, but I remember, I used to just use that as an excuse, like, my childhood was so messed up, blah, 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 but what the funny thing is that, between those husbands, she met a man who was an alcoholic, and he told her that he was sterile. Alcoholics have a tendency to lie, and so here I am. But he's one of the ones she didn't marry, go figure, but it probably worked out best. But anyway, so the thing is that I have this genetic trait of alcoholism, but my mother's side of the family were Pennsylvania Dutch, didn't drink, like we would have Christmas, nobody drank. And so nobody really knew what alcoholism was, what it would look like, or how to help. You know what I mean? I had no idea what it was going to be. But along the way, my mother met a wonderful human being, and he became my stepfather. So if it gets confusing, I'm going to refer to him as my father throughout the rest of my story because he did all the heavy lifting. I think it takes a very, very special man to raise another man's child. And he did a good job. But so the nice thing is that although I had a rather chaotic upbringing early, she met him. We moved to a place called East Berlin. I don't know if anybody's heard of it. I'm in Pennsylvania. I thought there might be a slim chance that somebody here knows East Berlin. But it was really just an idyllic kind of childhood. He had what was called a gentleman's farm. I don't even know if that's a real term or something he made up or whatever, but he had 18 acres and a little farm. We didn't grow anything, but we had horses, and I grew up in this great family. Again, he didn't drink very much. He would, twice a year, maybe have a poker party, and I would see him have a beer. That's it. My mom, nothing. And so I went to this school. I got good grades. I stayed out of trouble. I was a cheerleader. My boyfriend was, president of the senior class and captain of the basketball team. It's just enough to make you a little nauseous. It was just so happy days kind of stuff. But clearly here I am on a Saturday night, your speaker at an AA meeting, so something happened, right? And so, unbeknownst to me, I've got this ticking time bomb called alcoholism, and I don't know it, and they don't know it, and nobody knows it's coming. And I remember, I've heard, you can imagine, I've been sober, just celebrated 36 years, and in that time I've heard, by the way, is it vocal, is it okay, you can hear me, not too? Okay. I've heard a lot of speakers, and I heard a lot of speakers talk about how they have that first drink, and it's magical. Something happens and a light shines, and they're like, can't wait to get me more of that. And for a long time, I was always like, what kind of stupid alcoholic am I? Because it wasn't my story. You know what I mean? I remember my first drink. It was this interesting stuff called cold duck. Okay, so some folks know what it is. For the Gen Xers, Zers, all those guys, it's apparently it's red wine mixed with champagne. So here's what I knew about it. I was about 10 or 11, maybe 12, but it was pink and bubbly, and it was New Year's Eve, and my parents each had a glass. They gave me a small glass. We even poured some into the dog dishes for our fluffy things, Rugby and Pugsley. Like, everybody was getting cold duck that night. You know, it was New Year's Eve. And so I'm very excited. And I take a sip of this stuff, and it is just awful. Like, just, I think maybe because it was pink and bubbly, I thought it was going to taste like cotton candy, I don't know, bubble gum, something. It was god-awful. Didn't care if I ever had that stuff again. That was my first drink. Like, nothing. And I know, too, like, even later in, you know, as I got older and was exposed a little bit more, like, I would go to keg parties on occasion, and, like, I would carry around that same warm cup of beer. You know, like, I just didn't care. And when my girlfriends and I were feeling a little rowdy, we would get in my baby blue Pinto. It was a badass car. Oh, sorry. It's stick shift, 8-track. We were cool. And so we would drive down to Maryland, where I think the drinking age at the time was 18. It's not hard to look 18, and they didn't really care, let's be honest. And we would get a 6-pack, and we would get a pack of Salem Lights, and we would roll around town and drive around all these back roads, and we would drink that 6-pack. 4 girls, 6 beers. That's not exactly alcoholic drinking, you can imagine. So, like I said, I have been exposed to alcohol, don't really care. It's not magical for me, don't care. But I think like right before my junior year of high school, my parents, they went out to visit friends of my mother's who had moved to Arizona. And they were just enamored with it, just loved it. And so they come back and they tell me, we are going to move to Arizona, and you're just going to love it. You're going to love it, Carole. It's beautiful there. It's a state that you can water ski and snow ski in the same day. It's that amazing. I mean, in hindsight, I'm like, I don't know what kind of marketing plan this was. I didn't do either of those things. Like, I didn't ski either. I don't know. And I didn't want to go. I had things good where I was at Bermudian Springs High School, and I liked it there, and I didn't want to go. But I am, 16 going on 17, and I don't have much choice. So out we go to Arizona. And I still remember the day I walked onto the campus of Coronado High School, which was in Scottsdale, Arizona. And I thought I was the bomb, right? You know, I've got my Eagles varsity cheerleader jacket on, strutting in there, and nobody else has those. The girls don't, that's for sure. And so I realized very quickly that I am the round peg. And everywhere there's just square holes. And like, I tried to kind of fit in, but the things were different at this high school. First of all, it is humongous. Like, it's like freshman class was bigger than my entire high school. Like, they had 400 kids in their freshman class. So you can imagine, there's like 2,000 kids who run around this campus. It's huge. I thought my parents took me to community college as a gag. Like, it was just big. And there's all these weird cliques. Like, they have the jocks, of course, and they have the, the brains and stuff, but they have like these fake cowboys, that we all called kickers. They have like the Wranglers and the chew in the back pocket and the boots, and the cowboys. Like, we are in Scottsdale, Arizona. It's there's not a horse or a cow to be found. I don't know where these guys were cow poking at, but I don't know. They had like the surfer punks, like the surfer dudes with the, the OPs and the Vans. And again, we're in the desert. Like, there's no water. There's no surf. I don't know. And I kind of like tried to do my thing and try and like ingratiate myself into one of these groups, but I just couldn't. Like, it just didn't work for me. And that's where alcohol became an important factor in my life. And so I met up with some other misfit toys, and we formed our own little club, and we would oftentimes leave campus for lunch, and instead of going and getting, you know, Taco Bell or getting some lunch and going back to school, we would get a pint of Southern Comfort and then play card games the rest of the afternoon. And that is not a good way to get through high school. You know, that's like all of a sudden now I'm drinking almost every day, and I'm not going to school. And I am now like running home to check the mail so that my parents don't know that I have had like 40 absences this semester. You know what I mean? Like it's crazy to me, and I barely graduated high school. And this is shocking to me because just 18 months previously, I was college prep, honor roll, like that's how quickly alcohol transformed my life and my trajectory. It was that quick. And now, so I get out of high school, and you know, it's, I don't know, like I'm not really like experiencing that many consequences of my drinking. Like, yes, I'm a little hungover, yes, you know, school's school. My parents they don't know what's going on, really. And you know what? Because I spent 17 years building up good grace. Do you know what I mean? Like, they never worried about me when I left the house. I always came home before curfew. I never got in trouble. It never would have occurred to them that I was up to shenanigans. Do you know what I mean? But, you know, this is a part of like where now my alcohol is still going from a period of like, it's still kind of fun. You know what I mean? Like, it's social, and I'm going to bars, and I'm hanging out with my friends, and it's not bad yet. Like, my consequences are, you know, I don't feel good the next day. Oh, I have to call in sick. You know, it's not that bad yet. I'm starting to be a blackout drinker, but even that I find kind of comical. Like, it's not like, you know, I don't know. And I remember this distinctly, too. It's the first, like, thing where I am hiding my life, because my parents, I don't want them to know I'm out all night, you know? So, okay, just envision this. So this is like the height of MTV. And so I would go out to a club, and I would dress up like Pat Benatar. Like spike heels, spandex, the headband, the short spiky hair, all that. We'd go out clubbing. I'd come home like 2 o'clock. The bars close at 1. I'd come home around 1:30, 2 o'clock. I don't want my parents to know I'm coming in that late. So I will go up to the house, big stucco wall around it. I will throw my shoes and my purse over the wall, back up like 20 feet, get a running start, and vault myself over this stucco wall, right? Then, wait, gets better, and then I crawl in the doggy door, which is in my bedroom. Bing, bang, boom, there you go. I don't know what the neighbors thought. Like, they're like, Steven, Pat Benatar just broke into the neighbors. Like, go call the cops. I don't know. But I did this literally every night. Every night I was out, that's what I would do. Sneak in, my parents would be like, what time do you get home? And I'm like, no, I don't know, what time do you guys go to sleep? Yeah, a little bit after that. I mean, they had no idea. And then I would, get up, go to work, whatever, come home, take a nap, and do the same thing all over again. So at one point my parents are like, I'm just moving along, like I said, nothing really, really bad yet. And my parents say, you know what, we don't really like living here in Arizona, we're gonna move back to Pennsylvania. I know, right? Like, why did you drag me out to this godforsaken pizza oven to begin with? I mean, it is, Jesus, it's hot. So anyway, and I'm like, there's not much going on for me here, So I'm thinking, yeah, that'll work. I look at my calendar, what am I doing with my life? And I don't know if I was really thinking it at the time, but maybe subconsciously I'm thinking, this is a geographical cure for me. It'll give me a chance to start fresh. So, that could go to Pennsylvania, and things are going pretty well for a while. I enroll in college. I'm going to a satellite campus of Penn State. I get a job at a nice fancy restaurant in York, Pennsylvania. It's still York, Pennsylvania, but it's a nice job. And things are going well. But again, I've got a ticking time bomb. I'm an alcoholic. And fast forward 5 years later, I am not in college. I am not at that fancy restaurant. I am working at the Old Wheel Biker Bar in York, Pennsylvania, and I'm pouring Long Island iced teas at 7 in the morning for those factory workers. Like, look, I have nothing against bikers, I don't know anything about biker bars, but clearly my career path has taken a turn. You know, that's one thing. And I am partaking in other substances that are not healthy for me. And I am having crushing blackouts, like the really, really scary kind. Like when I wake, like mornings sometimes were the most frightening times for me because I never knew where I was going to be. You know, sometimes I didn't know where I was. I didn't recognize the curtains. I didn't recognize the guy next to me. I don't know where my car is. I don't know what day it is, what time it is. Am I in trouble with work? Like it was just a morning full of angst and tension, trying to figure out what kind of trouble am I in, you know? And then spending the rest of the day trying to get out of that trouble. And then saying to myself, okay, I can't do that again. Tonight I'm going to go home. I'm going to have a good meal. I'm going to get some rest. I'm going to get my stuff together. And at 5 o'clock, I'm figuring out how I'm going to do all that stuff again. You know, it's just a vicious cycle. And again, I don't know why it's happening. I mean, I still in my mind am trying to recall, like, I remember that time where it was just the right mix, right? Like, I had just the right buzz on, everything was good, I didn't wreck my car, I didn't throw up on my friends. Like, I mean, I'm trying to remember, like, these times where it was good, and it was the carrot at the end of the stick that I was chasing, because I kept thinking I could get the chemistry right. Like, I started to learn, you don't mix tequila with Quaaludes, that's bad. That is never going to end well, you know, or you don't smoke pot after you're drunk because then you're super drunk. You know, like I kept thinking I could get it right, and I couldn't, and it just got worse. And I've, again, been around a while, heard a lot of speakers, and I love hearing the stories about the moment of clarity because it is so unique to everyone. It's so unique. Like, how do we go from, nope, not the alcohol, nope, it's not the drugs, nope, it's not that, it's my bad boss, my mean boyfriend, this rotten cop, bad luck, bad timing, all of that stuff. It's never the drugs or alcohol, right? And then all of a sudden a light switch goes on and it's like, oh, it's the drugs and alcohol. And for me, it was like, kind of like a perfect storm situation. I had, when you talk this much, you get thirsty. So I had I got out of the biker bar and I was working for the York County Business Development Corporation, which was a municipal organization. It was a nice little job. They were lovely to me. And I was trying to do a good job, but I just couldn't. And I was working on a project, a big project, that was overdue. And I was supposed to be going in on evenings and weekends to work on it, but I didn't. I would go in, but I would drink and not get stuff done. So I'm in trouble there. I also am on a bit of a run, and so I haven't really eaten or slept in 3 days. I don't know if you know what that's like. It is not a setup for success. You know, you start to really spin out. But the kicker for this, the third leg of this perfect storm, was that it was my father's birthday. And for everything that man had done for me, he taught me everything useful. How to drive a stick, how to change a tire, how to ride a horse. Like just everything. You know, I couldn't even bring myself to take the time to buy that man a birthday card. Forget a gift, not even a card. Not even a card. And I remember him coming home from work that day and me doing what I had gotten very good at, which was lying. You know, making up lame excuses to justify my poor behavior and the many ways that I had let people down. You know, sorry I couldn't make it. Oh, I got a stomach flu. Sorry, you know what? And this was another one of those. And I'm like, oh gosh, Dad, I'm so sorry. I left it at work. I got you one. I left it at work. I'm so sorry, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, it's okay, honey. I know you were thinking of me. And I don't know if he actually showed it on his face or I felt it, but I felt that I had really hurt him. And a light bulb went off for me that told me, like, just basically like Carole, look at your life. Like, where is your moral compass? What have you become? What have you become? And it became glaringly clear to me that if I needed help. I had to get off whatever train I was on, and I needed to get help. And I remember the next day going to my parents and knocking on their door. Of course, I was living with them. Don't we always wind up doing that at some point? Knocking on their bedroom door and saying, I think I have a drug problem and an alcohol problem, and I need help. And it just makes me laugh because I feel like it was like a SWAT team came in. Within 30 minutes, I was sitting in detox. I don't know how they did, but they were like, shoes, toiletries, they're like, yep. And off I was in detox. They knew I had a problem. I guess they were just waiting around for me to figure it out. But it was like I said, they mobilized. Let's just put it that way. They mobilized quick. And I honestly, somebody was packing, somebody was calling. I don't know what was happening, but next thing you know, I'm sitting in detox. I was like, wait, we were just going to have a conversation. God was guiding me. So I go to detox, and I wind up at rehab. I went to a place called Clare Center. It sat on a hill in Wrightsville and overlooked the Susquehanna River. And good God, I loved it there. It was like summer camp for drunks. It was spectacular. We had a pool, we had tennis courts, they had some chef you would not believe. I still remember the first night I got there and I was unpacking and stuff, and they're like, why don't you come eat? And I'm looking at the menu, it's well, this evening we have New York strip steak or we have shrimp scampi. And I'm just oh, they're like, honey, you look hungry, you can have both. People gained 20 pounds in the 30 days they were there. It was wonderful. And I remember this too, one of the first meetings I was at, they would have this alumni meeting where people that had gone there would come back, which is great because you're look, I was right there where you were sitting. This is what happened. This is where I am. And this guy came up. His name was Glenn Kay. And he's in his sobriety date, he had 2 years sober. And I just remember thinking what? How? It just seemed unfathomable to me that you could not have a drink or a drug for 2 whole years. I just could not imagine how that could be accomplished. And I know now that because I thought of the sobriety I'd ever attempted before, just white knuckling, abstinence, that white knuckle kind of okay, I'm not going to drink today. I told everybody I'm not going to drink. I thought, there's no way I could do that for 2 years. I didn't realize that there was another kind of sobriety, and that was what Glenn had. And thankfully, that's what I have now, too. But I remember at the time just thinking, that just sounds so hard. But it did give me hope, Glenn seemed like a normal guy. If he could do it, okay, I guess I could, too. So the other thing that I learned in rehab is that we started reading the big book. And I remember reading that line about 1 drink was too many and 1,000 not enough. Whew. That rang something for me. That really rang something for me. And they talked about the disease. I really thought it was just a matter of poor control, you know what I mean? Or I have no willpower, that kind of stuff. I didn't really notice that I had a progressive illness. It was the first time that I had heard that I had a progressive illness that was going to kill me. It was going to be jails, institutions, and death, And this started to kind of sink because I could understand now what progression means. I remember how drinking was in the beginning. I remember how the middle stage was like. I knew what the hard stages were like at the end. And so it rang true to me that if I continued on the path I was on, that I was going to wind up dead or institutionalized. And so that helped me with my surrender. There's a couple other things that that I remember in rehab too. I remember they would give us homework. It'd be write about a time where you once had activities that you enjoyed that you no longer do because they would give you this little questionnaire, and I would be oh, okay. By the time my brain thought of something and I went to go write it down, I couldn't remember it. And I'm oh, good God. I was in the gifted program in school, and now I have drunk myself into lunacy. This is great. I'm just going to be a dummy, But they explain that the body's an amazing machine. And what the brain does is it learns how to rewire itself to function with the onslaught of chemicals you're giving them, whether they're drugs, whether it's alcohol. It has to create new neural pathways and synapses in order to just get through the day. And when all of a sudden you take the chemicals out of it, it's going to take some time for the wiring to reset. I mean, I couldn't count change for like a year, but I graduated college at some point, so it got better. The other thing was I didn't realize that I had forgotten how to sleep. Do you guys remember how hard it is to learn how to sleep? Like, I just would pass out. Like, I either ran out, passed out, or my body just gave up. I did not know what it was like to just lay in bed and go to sleep. The most simple, basic functions of humankind is to sleep, and I didn't know how to do it anymore. And I remember after like 3 or 4 nights of just like laying there, I remember going to the nurse, and I'm like, "Oh, Nurse Betty," I go, "I'm having some trouble sleeping. Do you think you could give me something for that?" Yeah. She's like, "Honey, you're in rehab. We're not going to do that." She's like, "Why don't you try some chamomile tea?" I'm like, "Oh, okay." So here's alcoholic mind. I go to the chamomile tea. I get 4 tea bags. I steep it for like a half an hour, and then I shoot it down like, a shot of tequila. That's how I handle things. Eventually it got better. I sleep pretty well now. Part of that is part of a clean conscience, but just some of those things that like you don't think about, like what it was really like in the beginning, like what it was really like. So anyway, they turned me loose on society. At 28 days, my insurance ran out, and off I went. And they send me off with a aftercare plan, which is like basically how many meetings do you go to, get a sponsor, yada yada. And they would have the aftercare. So every week I would have to go back up to Clare Center in their aftercare house, and I would sit down, I would fill out this form, like how many meetings did you go to? 3, 4, whatever. Do you have a sponsor? No. How many times have you called your sponsor? See previous answer. So I knew like every week I was going back and I was having to fill out this format. So I'm like, okay, I got to get a sponsor. I know this. People are talking about their sponsor. I know it's the thing to do. So I'm going to my meetings. I'm looking at people. I'm like, ooh, I really like what she had to say. And I'm like, those shoes, God, no. I didn't like her car or purse or whatever. It's just stupid stuff. I mean, I'm an idiot. You know what I mean? I talked to you about the brain damage. I'm not smart. And then I hear them say something about like, find somebody that has what you want. Perfect, right? But they are not real clear about that. They're not. It's too much ambiguity. And so what I think to myself is, I want a really cute boyfriend and a sports car. And so that's the sponsor I got. The one that had the really cute boyfriend and the sports car. She drove a CRX. Remember those? Honda? They were nice. She was cool. She was cool. But you know what? Didn't matter. It wasn't the right thing to do, but the right thing happened. And that was God in my life. She was an extraordinary sponsor. Extraordinary. She had gotten sober at 17. She had had it rough, and she had built this up, and she was in the herd. Like, she was in the middle of it. And she was what they didn't call it then because it was just the thing we did, a big book thumper. She took me through the big book. We did and then it's not just that. It wasn't just her. It was her whole posse of friends. And so if she wasn't at a meeting, one of them was there bossing me around. Go talk to the new girl, go empty ashtrays, go clean it, whatever. And I'm just like, okay, I didn't know any better. I just did it. And so, it was just, I didn't know any better, but I knew I didn't want to die. And you know what? That wasn't just that. Like, these people seemed to be enjoying their life. It wasn't they were just plodding through sober. They were really happy, joyous, and free. And I wanted some of that. And so I knew I had to do what they did. And so, it was time to get down to work. And she's like, we're going to, you've got till October 4th to do your 4th step. And I'm like, okay. And so, I did it. Like, I just didn't know. And the beautiful thing about the 4th step is, spoiler alert, it starts off, you just write down the people you're mad at. Well, how hard is that? You don't know at that point, you have to go back and make amends to them all, but at this point you're like, so I start rattling off, and it's good. And this is, like, now I can look back. I went to do my 5th step with her, and there is some just ridiculous stuff on there. I mean, just stupid. Like, you know, I have a page and a half on my parents, and my parents are spectacular. Like, they are loving, supportive. I mean, honest to God, one of the things on there is I'm mad because they gave away my tennis racket. What? I remember it's on there. Like, I mean, I was really hurt by this. Stupid. And just for clarity, these people bought me a motorcycle, a horse, and a car. I'm mad about some $10 tennis racket they gave away. It's just dumb. But anyway, that's the kind of person I am. That's the kind of like childish pettiness that I have. But here's the big one. Lori Colson, who was in my high school, was middle school then. And here's her crime. That's right, crime. You heard me. Don't minimize my feelings. So wait till you hear what she did. So she told everybody on the bus that I was stuffing my bra. All right, the guys might not get it, but the girls do. That's a horrible thing to do, horrible. And in my mind, again, I am a 26-year-old and I'm thinking about something that happened when I was in 7th grade. Like, it's just stupid. But in my mind, it's her fault I'm not a doctor. You know, whatever. Like, she ruined my life. But I was stuffing my bra. So that's the beauty of the 4th step, is that 4th column. You look at your part. You know, that was a lightning for me because I had always felt like some hapless victim, just floating around and people were, oh, no. I started the ball rolling every time. And so it just let me let go of that, and it taught me maybe if I took different actions, I would get different outcomes, you know? And it was freeing. And then I went around, I did my men's, look, they're not easy. I thought they were scary. I remember what prompted this is I would always run into people at the grocery store. Jesus, if it was today, I would just have DoorDash just bring me everything. I mean, honest to God. So I ran into an old roommate. I remember seeing her, and I just was petrified. I was paralyzed, and I remember I kind of hid behind this end cap display of Hamburger Helper. I was just oh, and then I ran out of the store. And I told my sponsor about this, and she said, you know, Carole, if you just went about and made your amends, you could walk around this town with your head held high, and you could lift your face to the sunlight of the Spirit. And so we did it. And I remember this, making amends to my parents, and it was hilarious because, you know, I just was this and they were like, nope. I sent them a letter in rehab. They're like, we got your letter, we're good, we don't want to talk about it. And I'm just flipping through my big book. I'm I don't know what to do about this when they say they want to talk about it. I don't, you know, but I mean, I remember going to my old roommate, and I remember going to my ex-boyfriend that I just, I was a terrible girlfriend. You can imagine. I mean, and it was always nerve-wracking and it was always scary, but I have found that the true growth in Alcoholics Anonymous is being afraid of something and doing it anyway. You know, doing it anyway. And so I did. That's exactly what I did. I went and I looked these people up. I still haven't found Lori Colson. I do owe her. If you know her, if you find her, you know, let her know I'm looking for her. You know, and she was right. Once I had done that, it didn't matter who I ran into in town. You know, because I knew I'd cleaned my side of the street, and that's a beautiful way to live. A beautiful way to live. The other thing that my sponsor did for me is she got me involved in service right away. And I remember I was sitting at a meeting with her, and they were announcing that, you know, we need a new coffee maker. Let me tell you, she jabbed her bony little elbow into my ribs so hard. And I was like, what? She's like, you should make coffee. And I swear to God, you guys, I didn't know there were people that made the coffee. I thought the church made the coffee. Or Keebler else, I don't know. I didn't care. I just didn't even know that there was this beehive of activity that was happening behind the scenes so that I could sit down and be at a meeting. I didn't know. She's like, you should make the coffee. I'm like, oh, okay. And honestly, like, I barely even drank coffee. Like, I remember I didn't drink coffee when I first got sober. And because everybody was drinking it, I thought, well, I guess I should do this. But I remember this. It was like this much powdered creamer, the same amount of sugar, and then the coffee on top. It was just like brown syrup that I sipped through the rest of the meeting. So I wasn't good at coffee. I was a terrible coffee maker because it was those big giant urns. You know, you had to start like 2 days before the meeting. Like, you know, they're just, for God's sakes. And I don't know, it was like 30 scoops or something. And I'd be like, 1, 2, 3. Oh, hi, Dave, how you doing? Where was I? Okay, 1, 2, 3. You know, I didn't know. I remember the brain thing too. But first I made coffee, then they found out I had a Sam's Club membership. Huge mistake, don't do that. So then all of a sudden I'm buying the big cartons of cups and lids and coffee. Then I got sober for a while. They made me treasurer. Who's going to trust me with their money? These people. And it was old school days. You were still getting coins. I was rolling, you know, people would put up they'd pull the little footballs, the little frogs in the basket, all sorts of origami, you know, and I'd have to unfold all that, and then I'd have to roll the quarters and the dimes and all that. So, but you know what, it made me a part of. You know, it made me responsible to people. It made me feel good about what I was doing to help others. You know, and I can't look back and say, oh, look, service is the only reason I'm sober still, but I can certainly say that I've always had a service commitment and I'm still here. You know, they talk about being in the middle of the herd. I mean, come on, if you've ever watched Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, really any nature program, you know, it's the antelope that's just goofing off on the side of the herd that gets absolutely shredded by the tigers, lions, whatever it is. They're getting torn apart because they're just on the outside. You know, and that is sobriety for me. You stick in the middle of the herd. But the truth of the matter is, and this is what my sponsor told me when I first took that coffee commitment, she said, Carole, you have been a taker all of your life. All of your life. And if you really want to be changed and you want to change your life, it's time for you to start giving. And she was right. My sponsor taught me something else too. She drank again. I had 4 years sober and she drank again. You can imagine what that does for you. You're like, was everything she told me a lie? You know, I felt like my sobriety was just built on sand. And people just guided me through that and said, look, she taught you another lesson. This is what happens when you stop going to meetings, you stop sponsoring people, you stop being of service. You're going to drink again. And they said, your job right now is to find another sponsor as soon as possible, you know, and stay in the herd. And that's what I did. You know, I know that this is a conscious contact group, so I'm going to talk about God. And that is another huge aspect. You know, it's sponsorship, it's service, and it's spirituality. And I can tell you that when I first got sober, I wouldn't have thought of myself as an atheist, but I remember when I saw God, I was just like, oh, sorry, I'm sorry. I'm in a church. But you know, and I don't know if there's any old timers, but I swear to you that when I first got sober, where it says admitted to God, it was in red font. Like, it was big. God was red. And so I remember walking into a meeting and seeing that, and I was like, oh. And then the prayer, oh my God. I'm like, oh, geez. But my sponsor, she's like, there's a chapter just for you. We agnostics. Like, how did those first 100 know that I was going to need that we were all going to need that, you know? And that was the thing I read where I saw how I had a hypocritical view of religion versus spirituality, you know what I mean? Like, and the truth is too, when I got sober too, this is again for the baby boomers, Tammy Faye Baker, right? Who was the other guy that was messing around with his secretary? Paulwell? You know who I'm talking about though. And thank you, that's it. There was some shenanigans going on. Let's just put it that way. When you looked at religious, you know, they were climbing because there was, you know, they were on TV and they were, anyway, a lot of that. And so I recognized the fact that it was easier for me to look at those few icons and say that's what God is, instead of the beauty of everybody else. You know, the missionary people, the people that do good in the community, like the people that church really is about, not those two idiots, you know what I mean? And that's what the chapter helped me do, is just to define a God that I could understand and I could adapt to, you know? And so it started small, and And I've come to trust my higher power. And this has come about a number of ways. Like, have you ever had a situation where you think, this is what I need, right? And then you don't get it. This happened to me a couple times in pretty early sobriety. I remember I was leaving my husband. Long story, whatever. He bought me a big book. I married him. I never should have. Blah, 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 blah. You know, boy meets girl on AA campus, blah, 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 blah. But anyway, I mean, again, he did buy me a big book. That was very nice. And so, again, naturally I married him. But anyway, so I was leaving him and divorcing him, and I needed to find an apartment. And I, at this point, have a 130-pound Rottweiler. Do you have any idea how hard it is to find an apartment when you have a 130-pound Rottweiler? And he's not a friendly-looking guy. He was, but they don't look friendly. He looks like he wants to chew your thigh bone off. You know what I mean? So, like, I was looking for an apartment, and I find this apartment, and the guy gets me back. He says, listen. He calls me back. He says, you know, I don't really feel comfortable renting to a single woman. I think you're going to meet a guy, run off with my refrigerator, something dumb like that. And I remember talking to my sponsor. I'm like, you know, that is against the equal housing rules. And I am going to file a complaint against him. That is not right. And she says, honey, you can absolutely do that, but that is not going to get you a place to live. So, but anyway, the bottom line is, I found a better apartment, had a working fireplace, fenced yard for my dog. It was amazing. But I started to learn that what I think I want is not necessarily the best thing for me. And I have to just preach, right? Yep. I just have to do the right work, take the right action steps, and put it in God's hands. And that was something that I've been able to teach my girls too. It's like, I'm not in the outcomes business. I'm in the action business. I take the right actions. I let the rest of it up to God. So I can tell you this too. I'm in a prayer group with some of the girls that I sponsor, some friends of mine. We've been doing this now for probably like 10 years, where we will just we pray, and then we get to touch base. Oh, I'm going here, you're going there, who's going to the meeting? Oh, by the way, Emily got accepted to law school. Blah, blah. Anyway, but it helps me stay accountable. So I know every morning I'm going to get on my knees and I'm going to pray. And that's part of that conscious contact. But you guys are going to really like this story. So, I don't know if you are familiar with what they refer to as the miracle of the Meadowlands. Okay, I'll tell you about this. Sorry, Kara, I'm an Eagles fan too. I happen to enjoy the game on Thursday. Very much. This is not a story that goes over well in Rockaway, New Jersey, I can tell you that much. But here's what it was. So I'm an Eagles fan living in Jersey, and I'm watching the game against the Giants, and we are getting pummeled. And it is like we're down like 20 points, maybe more, I don't know. I'm losing my mind. I am like screaming and I'm yelling, and I may have thrown some things at the television, I don't know. I'm not proud, but I'm just telling you, I am just livid. And I'm just like, I can't do it. So I set my TV to record, and I go to the gym, because I'm like, I can't watch these idiots anymore today. So I go to the gym. And I'm just doing my thing, and all of a sudden my phone starts blowing up. And I don't know how it happened, but the Eagles managed to score like 4 touchdowns in 12 minutes. I don't know. Anyway, won the game. Like came back from nothing and won the game. Here's the point. So I go home and I'm watching the game because I want to see this miracle. How did they turn this around? And I'm watching the game, and you know what? Like, there's a fumble, I don't care. We miss a pass, I don't care. We get a bad call, I don't care. No screaming, no yelling. You know why? Because I know the outcome. Like, that to me was an aha moment. Like, I knew everything was going to be okay, so what was happening along the way didn't bother me at all. So now if I can apply that same kind of principles to my life and know that whatever's happening, God has got the best outcome for me, all I have to do is do the next right thing, and it's going to be fine. It helps me a lot when I see that there's an obstacle or a challenge. I just go, you know what, just get through this, just get through this. And I know I'm going to be okay. I just want to tell you this one story too. This is a big one for me. That beautiful man that I didn't get a birthday card for. My living amends to them is still ongoing, but I mean, I didn't miss a birthday, a Christmas, a Father's Day, a Mother's Day. Like, I was there for all of it. And when COVID came, my dad got COVID, and he wound up on a vent in the hospital. And there came a time where they recognized the fact that they took him off the vent, but that there was no brain activity. And so they were going to move him to hospice. And so my mother was incapable of being there for him. And so I sat by his bedside and held his hands until he took his last breath. Alcoholics Anonymous made that possible for me. I was not the kind of person that could have done that. I would have run screaming, let anybody else do it. That is not my job, I can't do it. But I was able to do that for him. And the truth of the matter is that when I did my fear inventory, when I did that first, fourth, and fifth step, losing my parents was at the top of the list. At the very top of the list. I loved them, and I knew that that loss was gonna hurt like nothing else. And so when it actually happened, and I can tell you, it was a heartache that I had never felt before. But I knew that with God, the fellowship, and sobriety, I could get through it, and I did. Me and my girls gathered around me, and I knew that I was going to be okay, you know, and that it served a purpose, because when other people I knew lost their parents, they lost their loved ones, I could help them through that. You know, I have a life now, like I said earlier, like I could have never imagined, you know, never imagined. And it's not, a friend of mine says, like, sobriety often comes with cash and prizes, and it does, you know, but it's the fellowship, the relationships, the feeling I have of just waking up in the morning, not afraid of what I did the night before, not mad about something, or waking up full of like wonder and hope. Like, I wonder what's going to happen today, you know. And if you're struggling with sobriety, all I can say is don't quit before the miracle happens. It always happens. It always happens. Just keep coming back. So I hope I brought you a message of hope. Thanks for having me here, and the end.
Okay, good evening, everybody. Again, my name's Brian. I'm an alcoholic. The group would like to thank Carole, first and foremost, for coming out here tonight, delivering an incredible message of hope and recovery to our group here. A couple quick announcements, and then we'll close down the meeting. This group does start every week at 8 o'clock. We have food and fellowship before the meeting, so feel free to come out early and join us, you know. And as Carole talked about, if you want to get involved in service with this group, there are a lot of moving parts every week to setting up the meeting, putting out the stuff in the kitchen. So if you do want to get involved with this group, we're always looking for people to help out. If you want to help us out with some service right after the meeting, we could always use help putting the chairs away. It is customary for us to thank our speakers. They do come here on their own time and expense, so usually we form a line in the front here, and we thank our speakers on a personal level. I want to thank everybody for helping out with the meeting tonight. Thanks to our greeters, our readers. Thanks to Howard back there taking care of the kitchen. And most importantly, let's thank our speaker, Carole, one more time. If you do care to join us, we have a beautiful way of closing down the meeting. We are going to circle up, hold hands, just like the old days. And if you do care to join us, we will close down the meeting, as always, with a brief moment of silence for the still sick and suffering alcoholic inside and outside of these rooms, followed by our Lord's Prayer. Our Father,
Give us this day